My neighbor begged to borrow my camper for a weekend trip. I said no. When I returned from work that Monday, the camper was gone, so was my spare key. I accused her, and she said, "Sometimes people take what's been denied too many times." But when I tracked the GPS, it led to a forest where police found. I never expected to end up in the middle of a nightmare because I said no to my neighbor. My name's Dan, 47 years old, living just outside Missoula, Montana. HVAC guy. Divorced. No kids. I mostly keep to myself, and that's how I like it. The only thing I really spend money on besides bills and beer is my camper. I use 2013 Jayco Whitehawk. It's my pride and joy. I saved for 3 years to buy it. That camper has seen better views than most people in this town. Glacier, Yellowstone, even a long trip down through Utah. But when I'm not using it, it stays in my driveway, locked up tight. Clean. Covered. Maintained like it's gold. 9 months ago, a woman named Heather moved into the rental next door with her 2 boys. One was maybe 6, the other about 10. I didn't know much about them. Just that she moved here from Great Falls after a bad divorce. The dad wasn't in the picture much. She seemed nice at first. Blonde, maybe early 30s. Tired eyes. Wore the same jeans and hoodie almost every day. We talked a little. I helped her move a bookshelf into her house on move-in day, and she brought me cookies to say thanks. It started small, asking to borrow flour, a shovel, jumper cables. I didn't mind. But it happened a lot. She'd knock a couple times a week. She even let herself into my backyard once to use the hose without asking. That rubbed me the wrong way. Then she asked about the camper. She said her boys were disappointed because their dad promised a trip and bailed. She wanted to take them out to Flathead Lake for the weekend and asked if she could borrow my camper. I paused for a second because I felt bad for the kids. But then I remembered how most people treat things that don't belong to them. I said, "Sorry, Heather. I don't lend it out. It's not personal." She gave me a look that I won't forget. That smile that isn't a smile. The kind that says you'll regret this. "It just sits there," she said. "Still mine," I said. "I'm real particular about who touches my stuff." She turned without saying another word and went back inside. A week went by. I figured it was over. It wasn't. Monday afternoon, I got off a job out in Hamilton and pulled into my driveway around 5:30. I saw it immediately. The camper was gone. I actually pulled into the driveway and sat there for a minute thinking maybe I parked in the wrong place. I walked around the back, thinking maybe I was losing my mind. But it was gone. Trailer hitch dust rings still there. Tire marks in the gravel. I went into the shed, heart pounding. I keep a spare key hidden in a can behind some tools. Gone. That's when I knew. I stormed next door. Knocked once, then again, harder. Heather opened the door with a smug look like she was expecting me. I said, "Where the hell is my camper?" She didn't even flinch. "What camper?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Mine. The one that was here this morning." She crossed her arms. "Sometimes people take what's been denied too many times." I just stared at her. "You saying you stole it?" She shrugged. "I'm saying maybe someone finally got tired of being told no." I told her I was calling the cops. "Do what you need to do," she said, and shut the door in my face. I stood there for a few seconds, fists clenched. I've been mad plenty of times in my life, but this was different. This was the kind of anger that gets under your skin and stays there. But I wasn't stupid. I didn't go back. I made the call. One of those waterproof magnetic kinds. It's cheap, but reliable. I got it after someone tried to break into my garage last winter. I logged in on my phone. The signal was there, 90-something miles southeast, out near Clearwater National Forest. Middle of nowhere. A dense, rugged area with barely any signal and even fewer people. I gave everything to the sheriff's department: description, plate, GPS coordinates. They said not to go out there alone. Fine. They coordinated with the county out that way. Took them almost 2 full days to get to the spot. The terrain wasn't easy. The GPS kept bouncing around in a 10-mile radius because the signal was weak. But they found it. They said the camper looked like it had been dragged through hell. It was stuck in mud off a narrow path. Trees scraped along the side. Doors wide open. Inside was a mess. Trash wrappers, empty food cans, wet blankets, broken mirror, and blood. Real blood. Not just a scratch or a nosebleed. It was pooled in one corner and smeared along the floor and sink. Outside, about 30 yards from the camper, they found more blood. Then small footprints. Child-sized. Multiple sets. And drag marks. I was shaking when they told me. I said, "Heather's got 2 boys. Are they okay?" The deputy paused. Said they weren't sure yet. Search teams showed up. Dogs. Drones. Volunteers. It was all over the local news. People were horrified. The next day, they found a shallow grave about a mile from the camper, down near a creek. A kid-sized one. Inside was a young boy. Dark hair. Spider-Man shoes. It was her younger son. 6 years old. I remember sitting in my living room staring at the wall. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't think straight. I kept thinking, if I just said yes, would he still be alive? James, the older boy, was found later that same day. He was curled up in a ditch 3 miles from the camper, covered in scratches and mosquito bites, half-starved, but alive. He told them his mom took them on a trip because she said the forest was safer. He said she stopped talking for long stretches and got angry over little things. He said his little brother cried at night, and Heather yelled at him to shut up. Then one night she told James to run if he heard screams. So he did. That's how he survived. They arrested Heather that night. She didn't fight. Didn't cry. She sat on the porch like she was already gone. She told the officers she just wanted peace and silence. At the station, she said something that still makes my blood run cold. She said, "The world breaks you when you're loud. I was just trying to hush it." She's facing life now. I had to testify in court. Told them about the camper, the key, what she said to me. James testified too, on video. That was hard to watch. Her defense tried to claim mental illness, but it didn't matter. She knew what she did. She planned it. She stole a key. She waited until I was gone. The camper was ruined. Police said it reeked like old garbage and mildew. It was splattered with dried blood. I sold it to a salvage yard for a couple $100. I haven't replaced it. I still live in the same house. Still keep to myself. But something's changed. Sometimes I stand by the window and stare at her old porch. Empty now. The grass is tall, the blinds are drawn, and no one's moved in since. But I remember what the cops said they found besides the grave. They found drawings in the dirt near the camper. Circles. Faces. Scrawled with little sticks and rocks. Like a kid trying to protect himself. James told them he drew the monster circles. When they asked what they were for, he said, "Mom said monsters come when you don't listen." But I wasn't bad. I swear I wasn't bad. He wasn't. She was. And that's not the end. A month after the trial, things started to quiet down. People stopped asking questions. News vans left. Her rental went dark, and the landlord never listed it again. James and his dad moved out of state. I heard from a neighbor that they were in Oregon now, staying with family. I didn't reach out. I wanted to, but what could I say? "I'm sorry your brother died because your mom stole my camper." Yeah. No words would ever make that right. I tried to move on. Went back to work. Kept my head down. But the story didn't end with the arrest. It got worse. It started with the dog. One evening I came home from work and found a dog tied to a pole outside my shed. Skinny mutt. looked half-starved. No collar. Just a rope and a piece of cardboard on the ground that said, "He saw everything." I thought it was some stupid prank. But it creeped me out. I called animal control. They came and took the dog. I asked my neighbors if they saw anything. No one had. A week later, I found handprints on the camper pad. Not new ones. Dried ones. Small. Kid-sized. They were smeared into the gravel where the camper used to be. Almost like they were crawling. I tried to brush it off. Told myself it was just weather marks, kids playing, anything else. But it stayed in my head. That's when I started seeing the guy. Late nights, maybe around 2 or 3 a.m., I'd wake up to motion alerts on my phone. I had security cameras installed after everything that happened. Cheap ones, but they worked. The first time I saw him, I thought it was a glitch. The shape of a man standing on the sidewalk outside my house. Just standing. Not moving. Hood over his head, hands at his sides. No car. No dog. Nothing. He never came up the driveway. Never knocked. But I started seeing him more. 3 nights in a row, he showed up at almost the exact same time. Always outside. Always watching. Then one night he got closer. Stood at the edge of the driveway, just staring at the empty camper pad. I called the cops. They showed up fast but didn't find anyone. Said there were no fresh footprints. No tire tracks. Nothing. But I had the footage. I showed them. They said it could be a prank, maybe someone from the trial trying to scare me. But nobody knew where I lived. My name was barely in the papers. I asked if it could be Heather's ex, the boy's dad. They didn't think so. He moved away. He wouldn't risk his custody. The cops said they'd patrol the area more often. They didn't. I stopped sleeping. Then I got a letter. No stamp. No return address. Just taped to my front door. Inside was a single line, typed on white paper. "She warned you. You just didn't listen." I stared at it for a long time. She warned me? What was that supposed to mean? That she was planning this all along? That she tried to tell someone? Or was someone else saying this? Someone who thought I was part of it. I brought the note to the sheriff's office. They took a photo but didn't say much. They probably thought I was cracking up. Maybe I was. But the worst part came last. I got home one night and found my shed door wide open. Inside, nothing looked missing. Nothing looked broken. But in the middle of the floor was my old GPS tracker, the one from under the camper. I hadn't seen it since the investigation. On it, taped to the top, was a fresh sticky note. It said, "The camper isn't done." That night, I packed a bag and drove 2 hours to stay at a friend's cabin near Sealy Lake. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want whoever this was to follow me. But it didn't matter. 3 days later, I got an alert from one of my cameras. Someone was in my backyard again. Not just standing. Digging. Digging in the exact spot where the camper used to sit. When I watched the playback later, it looked like he was pulling something out of the ground. Something long. Wrapped in black plastic. I called the cops again. They showed up the next morning. Said they didn't find anything. But when I checked the gravel myself, I saw it. A small hole. Fresh dirt. And in it, something white. I reached in and pulled out a child's drawing. It was wet, wrinkled, covered in mud. A stick figure. A camper. A woman with big red eyes. And a circle of monsters drawn around it. It was James' drawing. Same style the sheriff described from the forest. Except this one had something new. A man standing outside the camper. A man with a red X on his chest. And above him, scribbled in shaky letters, "He made her mad." I didn't sleep the night I found that drawing. I sat in my kitchen, staring at it, my hands shaking. The stick figure with the red X, it was me. I knew it. And the way the little monster circled the camper, it felt like something out of a horror movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was real. And it was getting worse. I called the sheriff again. I told them someone was messing with me. That someone had broken into my shed, left the GPS, planted that drawing. They came out, looked around, and did their usual routine, took a statement, asked a few basic questions, promised to add extra patrols. But I could tell they didn't believe me anymore. I was just the camper guy. Probably paranoid. Probably guilt-tripping. Maybe they thought I should feel guilty. Like it was my fault, she snapped. But I knew that wasn't true. And I was done being scared. I took a few days off work. Set up trail cams in every direction, woods, driveway, alley, even inside the shed. Upgraded my door locks. Replaced the floodlights. And I slept on the couch with my .38 in a lockbox under the coffee table. I was waiting. And finally, I got what I was waiting for. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I got a motion alert. Backyard camera? I clicked it open. There he was. Same guy. Hooded. Tall, thin. Holding something long and wrapped in a garbage bag. He walked right up to the exact spot where the camper had been, looked around, then started to dig. But this time, he took something out of the bag. A shovel. And a crowbar. He went into my shed. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the gun, crept out the back door, and came around wide to the side yard. My heart was hammering. I flicked off the safety. Stepped into the beam of the floodlight. Hey! He turned. And I got my first real look at his face. It wasn't Heather's ex. It was Heather's brother. Randy. I remembered him from court. Sat in the back row, never spoke. Just stared at me the whole time. He dropped the crowbar and ran. I didn't shoot. Didn't have to. The cops found him 20 minutes later hiding in a drainage culvert 2 blocks away. He screamed when they cuffed him. Said I ruined everything. Said it was my fault Heather was locked in a cage. Said I could have prevented all of it. They found more notes in his truck. Drawings. GPS coordinates. Photos of my house. My camper from before it was stolen. He'd been watching me for months. But that wasn't the worst part. In his phone, they found a video. From inside the camper. Before it was discovered in the forest. It was Heather. Recording herself. She was crying. Whispering into the camera like it was a confessional. Saying she had to leave this world. But she wasn't going alone. Saying her boys were too good for this place. Then she stared right into the lens and said, Dan said no? Dan left us no choice. I almost dropped the phone when the detective played it for me. That sealed it. Heather planned everything. Randy had been helping her. He stole the spare key. He drove the camper partway into the forest. She took it the rest of the way with the boys. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a plan. And I was the scapegoat. Randy got charged with conspiracy to commit murder, stalking, tampering with evidence, and burglary. Turns out he'd been spiraling for years too. Lost custody of his own kid after a meth bust. Blamed the system. Blamed anyone who ever told him no. Heather's case was reopened with new evidence. Her original sentence got upgraded. Life without parole. She'll die in that prison. But the final piece, the part that really sent chills through me, came a few weeks later. A detective called me in. Said they recovered some old voicemail backups off Heather's cloud account. One of them was meant for me. Unsent. Dated 2 days before the camper disappeared. It said, Dan, you don't understand. This isn't about camping. It's about saving them. There's something out there. Something waiting. If we go together, we'll be protected. But if you keep saying no, I'll have to take them alone. Please don't make me. I listened to it 3 times. It wasn't just a threat. It was a goodbye. I don't blame myself anymore. Not like I did in the beginning. I didn't break Heather. I didn't kill that boy. She did. And Randy tried to finish what she started. They both paid the price. But I'm not the same person I was before any of this. I keep the lights on at night. I keep my gun close. I still get alerts sometimes, and my gut clenches every time. I never bought another camper. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I walk out to the empty pad where it used to sit, and I swear I can still smell the forest. Still hear her voice. Still feel those small handprints under the gravel. This wasn't just a neighbor dispute. It was a warning. Some people don't ask for permission. They ask for silence. And when you refuse to give it, they take everything else.